Hey, thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for the time that you are deciding to spend watching this, getting ready for your multi-engine training. So if you don't know me, my name is Marty Marino. I'm a CFI out of Cable Airport. If you want to go ahead and get into the training, go ahead and skip there now. I'm going to do a quick little 1-minute monologue just to update all my subscribers and people who just know me. So number one, thank you guys for subscribing. It's been a huge learning experience just doing social media in general, starting with the YouTube videos probably about over a year ago, then going into Instagram for like 7 months, just pumping out content. Those each took about 2 hours each, and then I saw that the YouTube took about a week each, so one was a little easier to get out. Originally I did YouTube because I was like getting ready for my commercial check ride, and that's how you guys got the commercial check ride videos. And then for the Instagram, I was getting a little anxious about getting ready for my flight instructor check ride, so that's where that social media came from. And now I'm getting ready for my multi-engine check ride, and that's where this video is coming for you guys. And so I just want to create as much value as I can for any video that I put out. I don't really care about how fancy it is. I just want to make sure that it brings value to you guys. So with that being said, thank you for following. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the time you're putting into this video. Let's go and get into our multi-engine lesson. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Bada bing, bada bang. Yes, I use Loom. There's my inside tip to you new CFIs and people who want to get into YouTube and stuff. Loom is awesome. Let's go slideshow. Probably want to go all the way to the back. Here we go. And all right, let's talk about it. So this lesson, this is the first multi-engine lesson review at Cable in the Cessna 310. I just want to clarify, I'm not an MEI. This information should be cross-checked and not relied on. This video is for me to pass my check ride and to have a go-to video to go back to and reference during my training. So, the timeline. What did we do during the check ride? The first lesson. So I met with Connor. I've met him before. He helped me with my CFI in various parts of my training prior. We knocked out documents. He shared the training materials. We briefed the flight and maneuvers / procedures we'd be hitting during the first day. We had a Cessna 310 tour, learning all those new switches and extra new stuff. Learned how to pre-flight the airplane, did a run-up, took the runway and headed for the Apple Valley area. Did slow flight, steep turns, power on, power off, stalls, simulated engine failure. Ran the ILS to 26 right at Chino. Did a few touch and goes and learned checklist procedures. Came back to Cable. Fueled up and debriefed. So let's talk about each one of those points. The MEI, Connor. He's awesome. I'm a little bit biased because he was my instructor before, and we both went to Ayala High School. He graduated 2017. I graduated 2016. I didn't know him in high school, but that was cool, small world kind of thing. For the viewers, he's extremely knowledgeable, and he has a very professional demeanor. He's a United pilot, so you got to work around his schedule. But if you're doing multi, you can probably schedule all the lessons pretty easy. Get it done in like less than a month. I'm on lesson 2 right now. Just finished that up today, and yeah, it's gonna go by super quick. I mean, we're not there yet, but it's what it sounds like. Okay, cool. Documents. So you get a photocopy of my driver's license, commercial pilot certificate, and medical for VMC. And then what was super cool was they had a binder with all the pertinent documents for the airplane. Super sick. Great attention to detail, and then he showed me in the airplane where the documents actually were. So that was cool as well. Study documents. So before you really get into your training, make sure that these are shared with you. This is all the maneuvers, the checklists, POH, check ride checklist, just a bunch of different stuff you need to be briefing during your training so that you're ready to go to check ride. As I'm making this presentation, I've yet to open these documents, but these were shared at the start of training. For this presentation, I'm only going to go into what we covered in our first lesson. So yeah, I made this presentation probably about 4 or 5 days ago, and now I finally have time to record it. So instruction before the plane. So there's a sweet little office in his hangar that we do, like we brief the flight before and we debrief after. So we hit various V speeds that are important. Landing techniques, power configurations, landing configurations, the reverse L for the engine failure fix flow, and the after takeoff checklist, and the before landing checklist. Okay, so commit this to memory. The Cessna 310 V speeds that were important for your first lesson are going to be VA, it's going to be 140 miles per hour. VR, rotation speed 85 miles per hour. VX, 95 miles per hour. And VY, 121 miles per hour. Cruise climb is going to be between 130 and 140. A couple of other important V speeds that I learned from today's lesson are going to be 109 is blue line. And then, what was that? Yeah, 80 or 85. Don't quote me. I needed to study my stuff better. But when you do a VMC demonstration, you're gonna slow the airplane down, one engine, pull back for 80. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna go back and check that later. We didn't do VMC demonstration when I was making this presentation. Okay, instructions before the plane. Landing, part 1. Flaps, gear, flaps. Flaps 15, gear down, flaps 30, and then flaps 40 for short field, and then prop full forward on final. That's what's in your checklist, but flaps, gear, flaps is the typical way to go about it. Instructions before the plane. Reverse L for the engine failure fix flow. So when I was making this presentation, there were a lot of new buttons, so I had to figure these out. So boost pumps on, mags check, alternate air, fuel selector, crossfeed. Okay, so when we have a fixed flow, an engine failure fixed flow, we're going to check that our boost pumps are on. There's these new buttons, it's called boost pumps, turn them on. Then you want to go ahead and go over to the red knobs, check that the mags are on. After you've checked those two, you go down to alternate air. It is below the rudder trim, or the aileron trim. These two little white kind of things you pull, make sure those are on for the dead engine. Fuel selector, crossfeed. So this is after an engine failure. Yeah, this is how you would try and fix it. Crossfeed. So if the left engine is dead, switch the left tank to the right tank. Cool. This is why I make a presentation, because I gotta put together there's a whole lot of switches you gotta get used to. First aid, just a few of them. Yep. Cool. All right. After takeoff checklist. So the way you train for commercial multi at cable is for the airlines. It's the last checkbox you need to check off for most people before they head off to the next better seat. So why I even put that in there is because Connor brought this up. How you're going to be saying stuff is you start out with the checklist name, and then you run down the checklist, and then you say checklist name complete. So you'll verbally call out gear up, flaps up, boost pumps off, power and RPM set, daylight 24 and 24. After takeoff checklist complete. Cool. Throughout this video, there's going to be points where you can skip ahead. I'm just going to run through this for my own memory, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Getting familiar with the Cessna 310. We got in the cockpit of the 310 first, debriefed all the new buttons, or just what different looking buttons did the same thing that I'm used to, like magnetos, for example. In your Cessna 172, you just check your magnetos with your key. With this, they're whole switches now. Starting with the engines, they're buttons now. Starting the engines are with buttons now, followed by the boost pump switches. So you prime it with boost pumps, depress the engine start, and then boost pumps back on. There's a generator switch for each engine and the main battery switch. The vacuum pumps can be directed from either engine. You can actually trust the fuel gauges now. I thought that was wild. There's 2 needles in the same manifold and RPM gauges. That was kind of cool to see, because you're finally flying a multi-engine. There's 2 needles inside of both the RPM and the manifold pressure gauges. Okay, also watch a video on how HSI worked. Thank goodness I was getting ready for my CFII before getting into this, and I briefed a little bit of HSI stuff, because it kind of blew me away when I first saw the HSI. That thing, you gotta just watch a video on that on the side. I'm not going to explain it here. All right, Cessna 310 pre-flight. How's it work? Well, it's not too different from your regular pre-flight that you're used to. So this may be breathe easy because it's not much extra than 172. Just everything you'd look for on one engine, look for on the other was the biggest difference. I already had a complex endorsement, so looking out for the extra stuff in the landing gear was pretty straightforward. Make sure everything's locked correctly, you know, no extra oil leaks, that sort of stuff. Make sure everything looks lined up right and nothing is loose. There's an AD for the rudder trim, so double check that the arm on that bad boy is tight. All right, start up and taxi. So after the tour and the pre-flight, we pulled out the airplane and we hit the can. Had to put that in there, right? Make sure you go pee before you go fly. And ran through our startup checklist. This is where I also was informed I'd be making the first landing with no demonstration. Talk about trust. Yeah. Landing in this airplane is pretty intimidating. I think I actually put this in this presentation a little later. But yeah, you know, your nose is like going for the ground. I'm not used to that sight picture in the 172. Okay, so run the checklist as if you were in the airline. You can skip this part of the video, probably about 10 to 15, 20 seconds, or pause if you just want to read it yourself. I'm going to run through it from my own memory. So, before starting engines checklist. Seats, set. Safety belts, fastened. Control lock, removed. Circuit breakers, checked. Gear switch, down. Fuel tank selectors, main. Trim tabs, elevator, aileron, rudder, set. Avionics master, off. Pre-flight or flight controls, free and correct. Generator switches, off. Fuel boost pumps, off. Battery switch, on. Parking brake, set. Before starting engines checklist complete. So that's how you run that. All right. So I'm going to do this. Oh no, what happened here? There we go. Okay. So followed by the starting engines checklist. Skip again or pause if you want to read it yourself. Engine start checklist. Magneto switches, on. Mixture, full rich. Props, full forward. Throttle, half-inch forward. So for this, you'd actually go for the like first click. You'll feel it when you get into the airplane. Left boost pump, on. You flick that switch. Left starter, depress. That's a button. It'll start to catch. Left oil pressure, checked. Left generator, on. Right boost pump, on. Right starter, depressed. Right oil pressure, checked. Right generator, on. Engine start checklist complete. Now the next checklist. After start checklist, boost pumps off. Avionics master on. Flaps up. After start checklist complete. All right. All right, so this video would be incomplete if I didn't at least mention that you can't taxi a multi-engine aircraft on just one engine. Both of them have to be working, otherwise you got too much pull on one side than the other. You gotta get a car or a cart or something to pull you back to the hangar. At least if both engines are off the side and not in line. So, like if you had a front engine and a back engine in line, they would that would work. But these are on the side of the aircraft on the wings. To hold center line, imagine a line from your heart to your knee. And that's that line in your head is over the center line. My instructor didn't say this. It's just what I witnessed when he said I was over center line. Sight picture is definitely a little. You're sitting a little higher than a 172, so you got to get used to it. That was the image that I had in my head. All right, so for a run-up, we've already taxied over to the run-up area at cable. Run-up's pretty standard. Follow the checklist. The biggest difference from a regular 172 flying was cycling the prop and checking a second engine for the same stuff. So, yeah, let's do it. Engine run-up checklist. Parking brake, set. Mixture, full rich. Oil temperature, checked. Engine RPMs, 1800. At this point, you want to make sure that the right and left needles are the same at 1800. Magnetos, checked. Cool. So cycle left or cycle, yeah. Left engine left engine right engine left, right engine right. Cool. Propeller governing, cycle, checked. Alternate air. Those are the little things below the rudder trim that you pull out. They're little white things. Pull out, put in, pull out, put in. Make sure there's a drop. Engine instruments, checked. So they're all on the right. Make sure the temperature, pressure, all that good stuff is checked. Oh, did I miss vacuum gauge? Vacuum gauge checked. There's a little like knob that you would check your right and your left. And there should be like, it would drop like pretty much off. Nah, I wouldn't say off, but it lowers. Throttle, idle, full back. Cool. Climb out. So we've taken the runway, we're climbing out. When you take the runway, you put half power and full brakes to check if anything's wonky. It's better to abort the takeoff now than after you're barreling down the runway. This takes a little bit of getting used to because you're used to a 172. You got the one engine. You're not worried about anything messing up. You only can rely on that one engine. But with two engines, there's twice the risk. So you want to make sure they're both working. Out of cable, the crosswind, downwind, and midfield departure is one continuous turn. Rotating at 85, climbing at 95, and then cruise climb at about 140 out of there. So takeoff. I'm going to mention this real quick because I got a better understanding of how the takeoff checklist works today. I may have this later in the slides, but we're going to talk about it right now. So when you're taking off from in the 310, you're going to brake, half power, release, full power, rotate at 85, positive climb, so positive rate, thank you. So once you get positive rate after the 85, then gears go up. It's very important you get the positive rate first, then gears go up. Pitching for 95. Power setting, 24, you're just getting in the ballpark. You don't want to get too anal about getting it dead nuts on. And then flaps, check. And then you do after landing checklist, and then you go into that. I'll talk about that in a minute because it is your landing, flaps, power, boost pumps off after takeoff checklist complete. Yeah. Okay, so you're at 5,000 feet. Before you know it, you get to probably about over Chaffee, and you keep climbing all the way out to the Apple Valley area. You're there in about 5 minutes. It felt wicked fast. All right, so we started with the slow flight. Biggest surprise here was that bringing in the first 15 degrees of flaps. There is an extreme amount of lift. You do this in 3 increments to get down to the 15 degrees of flaps. For your benefit, chair fly this with me or pause or skip. So for slow flight, how are you going to do this? Procedure, flaps, 1, 2, 3, flaps are at 15. Gear down, pull out, push down. Flaps 30, hold all the way down to 30. While maintaining altitude, pitch up for the first indication of a stall. So 80, stall horn, or buffeting. Establish slow flight just above the speed at the first indication of stall, so -0 +5. Once prompted to recover, add power and pitch to maintain altitude. Full forward, flaps 15. Gear up, flaps up. Okay, so that's from 30, 15. So power, 15, gear, 0. Cool. There we go. All right, and for steep turns. This threw me off because I thought with more power you didn't need to introduce much more elevator, but I was wrong. It's very similar to a steep turn in a 172. You're just hauling ass when VA is 140. So for steep turns, so it's up to commercial standards, so you're going to be banking to 50 degrees. So I'm not going to say what this thing is because I did it again today. What you do is clear, call, configure, clear the area, call for you're doing this maneuver, configure. So we did 7,500 a day at about 140 knots. And then you get into a right turn. As you're getting into that right turn, go ahead and push in that power just a tad, just enough to maintain speed. And then start pulling back get completely into that 50-degree bank and start to pull. And then you're going to do your whole maneuver, and then 30 degrees, 20 degrees before a rollout, start rolling out, and then push down because you get that extra lift, pull that power back. And that's how you do a steep turn. Pretty standard. All right, power off stall. So the biggest thing about the power off stall is to get into a landing configuration. I've never landed it before, so I was just assuming some similar stuff. After I learned, prop full forward for all maneuvers unless you have to feather, and RPMs at 17. So let's walk through this one with me. We're going to chair fly. So power off stall, 7,500. Choose your heading. Power off stall. First, flaps 15. 1, 2, 3. You literally grab the little flap thing and you go boom, boom, boom. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. All right. Then you go gear down. Flaps 30. Establish a 500 feet per minute descent. Power idle, hitch up for first indication of a stall, because it's a commercial maneuver, right? Recover, smoothly reduce angle of attack, full power, flaps 15, positive rate, gear up, VX 95, flaps up, establish a climb. So pretty similar to how you would do in a 172. You just run through that. All right, cool. The best part about the power on stall is, since it's a commercial check ride, you only need to bring it to the airplane's first indication of a stall. Let's chair fly this again. So the procedure, we're at 7,500. We've chosen our outside visual reference port, clear call configure, all that jazz. Reduce power to 15 inches of manifold pressure, slow to 100 miles per hour, increase power to 20 manifold pressure, pitch up to first indication of a stall. So, okay. So, flying 120, slow to 100 knots, flaps, manifold pressure, bring it in, and then pitch up to reduce first indication of stall. Recover, smoothly reduce the angle of attack. I want to emphasize that it's a smooth reduction of the angle of attack. Then full power, accelerate and climb at 95. So it's pretty similar to pitch, power, roll, climb. That's what you want to do. You want to pitch the airplane down, roll the wings level. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Pitch, power, roll, level, climb. Get away from the ground. All right, essentially, accelerated stall. So this is another thing we did on the first day. It was a busy first day. Essentially, a steep turn where you're yanking back on. So you get into a 45-degree bank, pull back, hear the stall horn, reduce the angle of attack, full power, rudder to level the wings. This was important. It was a little different from 172 because there's a lot more torque. And then climb away at 95. Remember, rudder. Okay, there we go. All right, simulated engine failure. The first simulated engine failure of a multi-engine. We didn't dive into this one too deep other than feeling out what a dead engine felt like. So that was cool. So engine shutdown, throttle, idle, mixture, idle cutoff, prop, feather, fuel boost pumps, off, magnetos, off, generator, off. And then you want to dead foot, dead engine, then verify with throttle, follow the checklist. So today in my lesson, I really wanted to just verify. I didn't do gears or flaps or any of the other stuff that you're supposed to prior. So just know that there's more than just this when you get into training. And then we did the ILS 26 right into Chino. So before heading down to Chino, because we were at 7,500 out in Apple Valley, we had to get down to 3.5 to get into Chino. 4,400, there you go. So we had to drop a lot of altitude. We put in 15 degrees of flaps to help us get down through the pass and to get to the correct approach altitude. So since you're flying really fast, multi-engine, you can use flaps to make you drop as well. We asked for a VFR practice approach. I accidentally asked for an IFR practice approach. Make sure you're proficient in your radios. Anyways, briefing the localizer frequency, approach course, verify the plate, and final approach fix, altitude, and minimums were the important part of the briefing plate. He is not concerned that you can do a complete plate brief because this is not an IFR check ride. This is a multi-check ride. They just need to make sure your skills are there. So, 26, the HSI, I'm not going to go too far into it, so bear with me. The HSI acts like a heading indicator. It spins as you turn the airplane. So, just as you would in your regular 172, that heading indicator, it turns. But to turn it, to match it to the magnetic compass, you would push in on this little guy over here and turn, kind of like with your heading indicator in your 172. And then the course selector knob turns the course pointer. That's what you got to line up with your approach course. So this guy, when you brief the plate, what was that? 255. You'd line this up to 255, and that would be your course that you're trying to get onto, wherever it may be around your compass. Line your GPS leading line with the purple needle, and then readjust the course selector, and you've corrected for wind. So you have your, I think it's a 430. It's one of the, I should have put that in here. Anyways, it's a touchscreen one. And you line that up with the purple needle, your nose, dash line. Once those two are lined up, reset your course once those two are lined up, and you've corrected for wind. Okay, cool. There's a glide slope indicator. Capture the glide slope, hold 100 miles per hour on the way down. So over here, there was a glide slope indicator. It caught the other day. It didn't catch today, so we had to use localizer minimums. All right, cool. Landing at Chino. Wild. This mofo goes, boy. So, turns in the multi-engine got to be authoritative and to 30-degree banks. So I think this is just because I was a little intimidated, never being in a multi-engine before. You're going really fast, and I didn't want to like do anything too drastic, but no, it's you fly the plane, turn it 30 degrees, dude. You want to turn, turn. All right, sight picture is going to be intimidating too. Nose down to the numbers the whole time till flare. So yeah, it feels like you're diving towards the ground. Cool. Landings at Chino. Okay, so I'm just going to read out the red part here for us. If you want to skip, go ahead, skip. This is for both of our education. Configuration, gear down, flaps 30. Once you're in the downwind, you want to do your GUMPS checklist. So gear down, gas, so boost pumps, fuel selector, mixture. No, mixture is the M. What? I need to do better at this. And then U is undercarriage, gear down. M is manifold pressure? No, shoot. Mixture, like I just said. Mixture full rich. P is props full forward on final. Cool. So yeah, you're not gonna do the blue knobs forward until you're on the final approach. So let's talk through the procedure. Approach the downwind, select flaps 15, maintain 120 knots. So way before you even get to the pattern, your flaps are already at 15 and you're shooting for about 120 knots. Okay. Gear down before landing checklist. Select the gear down, beam your touchdown point, and accomplish the before landing checklist. See steps 3 through 5 and step 8. Gas. Oh, dude, I could have just read this. I'm just going to read it again. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Gas. Boost pumps on. Verify both fuel selectors are on their respective sides. Awesome. Undercarriage down. Verify the gear and the green light is illuminated. Mixture full rich. Mixture to full rich. On base, select flaps 30 and maintain 110 knots. On final, maintain 100 knots. So 120, 110, 100. Props on final before landing checklist complete. It's very important that you say these red parts out loud. Once established on final, props full forward. On short final, slow to 95 miles per hour and maintain until the flare. Sweet. Okay, so for takeoff, I think I kind of already briefed this on a slide prior. We're just going to do this one real quick. Procedure. Align with the runway center line and come to a complete stop. Smoothly advance the power to 2,000 RPM. 3 green, 6 green. So on the right side of the dash, there's going to be engine instruments for the oil and temperature for 1 and 2, right? So you want to make sure 3 green, 6 green. All the needles are in the green. Release the brake. Release the brake and advance the engines to full power. At VR, 85 miles per hour, rotate smoothly. Positive rate, gear up. Reduce the power to 24 inches of manifold pressure and then 2,400 RPM. Pitch and climb at VY, 121 miles per hour. If departing out of the pattern, establish a cruise climb at 130 to 140 knots. Flaps up after takeoff checklist complete. Cool. All right, we're almost done, guys. Landing at cable. Like I said a couple slides ago, the sight picture is intimidating, much more so at cable. It's a little smaller runway. You feel very low on final into cable. Flaps 15, because it's a short field as well, so you want to make sure that you hit your point. Flaps 15, and for 120 in the downwind. Gear down, flaps 30, on base, on 45 degrees of flaps on final. For short field, prop forward on final. Aim for the first taxiway. So you're actually aiming for the numbers, and then you bring your sight picture down the runway, and you want to be touched down on the first taxiway. That's the goal. All right, debrief. These are just the notes that we talked about for my personal flight. Afterwards, so like, planes put away, we go back to the office. Flaps 15 anytime getting into the airport. Okay, so like any airport environment, make sure flaps are 15. Relax on the ailerons in slow flight. So yeah, use more rudder, not so much ailerons. I guess that day I did some more. Be smooth but assertive on the power. So yeah, don't be a little, use your power. Steep turns still need a little extra power in the turn. So yeah, I learned it that day. So these are the notes that I took afterwards. So the 2.6 left ILS, intercept the glide slope, gear down before landing checklist, gump at the end, flaps 20. Accelerated stall, use more rudder, not ailerons, engine failure procedure. Okay, cool. So that was my first day of multi-engine training. I hope this video helps you get ready for your first day of multi-engine training. If you guys want, please subscribe if you got value from the video. I'm planning on doing more YouTube stuff. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, @OneMartyMcFly. Hit me up with any questions over there. My DMs, I answer my DMs now. I didn't for about 2 months there. That was a headache. Anyways, that's a story you can ask me about in the DMs. All right, guys, thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to y'all soon. Peace.